We've done about 6 episodes of the Founder Connect. I've spoken with Nadai of Eden Life, spoken with Ezra of Paystack, Yinka of Kudi, Tosin of Money Africa. Now this is another new episode, and in this episode I'm going to be speaking one of the leading founders of a leading startup in Nigeria, and I think actually Africa. He's been doing this for almost 10 years. Like, so a lot of startups we've spoken with have been around for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. This is someone who has been doing startup for almost 9 years, since 2012. Ladies and gentlemen of the Itimi crew, please welcome Chijioke Dozie, the co-founder, CEO of Carbon. Hi, Chijioke.
Hi, Peace.
How are you doing today?
Great, especially after that introduction.
Yeah, it's really great to meet you. It's really great to also be here. It feels like it's an honor to speak with you. And I can't wait to learn a lot from you and about you on the company.
It's an honor for me to be here as well.
So thank you.
Welcome to my YouTube channel. I am Itimi, a change maker, professional, and creative who is passionate about growing people and growing businesses. Like, comment, subscribe to my channel, and please always share my videos. It promises to always be impactful and insightful.
So this interview, like I said, I want to learn about you and I want to learn about the company. So my first question is about you. People know of Carbon and they know of Chijioke Dozie and Ngozi, right? They know about the founders, and you have a very popular and reputable surname. But nobody really knows you. You're not one of those startup founders that are kind of like everywhere. It's like, bro. So tell me 5 things about you that is not Carbon related.
Okay, 5 things about me. I'm one of 5 boys.
Okay.
I'm the 5th.
Okay.
I'm married. Ngozi and I, my co-founder, I used to hate each other when we were growing up. So we're like, he's number 4 and number 5, and we were always at each other. So it's funny that now we are working closely together for over 12 years. So is that 5 things?
That's 3.
3?
No, that's 4.
4.
One more.
Wow. I like to travel.
Okay, so that brings me to my next question. What are 5 of your favorite things?
Well, travel is one.
Yeah.
PlayStation is another.
Did you get PlayStation 5 for Valentine's?
My wife got me a PlayStation for Christmas, which is amazing.
Nice.
PS5, yeah.
One of the lucky few.
I know, right? And no, she's great. And I like to read a lot.
Okay.
And one other thing is I like doing things that push me out of my comfort zone. I hate doing it initially, but then I like it. So like, for instance, I climbed Kilimanjaro. I hated it. I hated the whole process of it. But on the way down, I was like, I did it. So yeah. So that's and what else? I hate cats.
Oh, I hate cats too.
Ezra likes cats.
He does. He does. I don't get it. He practically lives with cats. I don't think I can step into his house. I expected you to say one thing, that you like coffee.
Yeah, I love coffee. Yeah, that's a given, right? I think it's a given. Yeah, I do like coffee a lot.
Okay, cool. So, what is your fondest memory growing up?
My fondest memory growing up is, when I went to London for the first time. Apparently, my mother keeps on repeating this story. I went into a shopping mall like the first time. And this is like, I won't tell him, well, it's the 80s, so let me not age myself. But apparently I got lost. Like, she lost me. And she sent Ngozi to find me. And when Ngozi found me, we were in front of a bookstore called W.H. Smith. I was just there staring at the window. Ngozi just started staring at the window. And then she lost 2 of her sons. So she had to, so that was very funny.
That's interesting. How did she eventually find you guys? She had to go around the mall?
She had to go around, she had to, call looking for 2 boys.
And what were you guys staring at?
Books.
Oh!
I mean, what do we have in Nigeria at the time? We had Falamo Shopping Center, where, you guys are really aging me now.
Because I didn't even know what you're talking about.
So we had all these, you didn't have like a lot of retail, like in Nigeria at the time. So when you were in this shopping mall, seeing everything like toys, books, and it's all full of color, I was just like lost. So
amazing. Okay, so you studied economics and a bit of finance and then an MBA. Did you have, before you and Ngozi founded Carbon, did you think that, doing a digital bank or a fintech company in Nigeria was inevitable? Like before you started it, did you always feel like, that's something I'm going to do at some point?
No, we didn't. I mean, I knew that I wanted to do something in finance. So when I was working in New York, there was a company we had looked at. It was a sort of a consumer lender. And it was I was like 24, 25 at the time. And the owners were two young South African guys who were in their like 32. And we were looking at investing in the business, my company was at the time. So I had to fly with them to Zambia, fly with them to Ghana. I just thought, these guys are so young and look, they're doing so well. And I just loved the idea. And I knew that that's one of the things I wanted to do. And I think, if I was really honest, I think that's what I wanted to do even before going to business school. But I was always worried about, I need a backup. What if that fails? I need to show people that I am, employable. So let me get an MBA. But in the end, I mean, maybe I should have just gone straight into to do it. But that's what I wanted to do.
That's what you wanted to do. Yeah. Interesting. So I'm going to ask how Carbon started. But before that, the one question I want to ask is, so I feel like for people, there are different moments in our lives that are very defining, right? Something happened. For me, it was being a Google Sense ambassador when I was 19 and I was the first in my university. And that just changed my path from medical to digital marketing, right? So I feel like for people, there are different moments, 1, 2, 3 moments in your lives that if something had not happened, maybe you wouldn't be where you are right now. Can you think of any 1 or 2 or 3?
So I think how I got my first job was a pivotal moment because I finished my master's and for almost a year I was looking for jobs and, sending letters and, I was actually getting excited when I get a rejection letter because back then you'd only send an email to they wouldn't have a name. So it wouldn't be like, please Itimi at firstbank.com. It's like recruitment@firstbank.com. So if I got a rejection, and let's say it was from you at First Bank, I'd be like, great, her name is Itimi. Let me go and send her another email like, why you should hire me. So after a year, and this is after a master's, I just said, you know what, I'm going to learn a language. So I actually said I'm going to learn Spanish, and then I'm going to carry on with my French. So a friend of mine who's still in Lagos, he actually got me a job in Paris. So the deal was, if by the time I finished my French lessons, I would have a private equity job in Paris. And so I said, great, this is amazing. So I remember I had a party for my friends in London at the time. It was like my going away present. I already got my Spanish student visa. So I was going. And that Saturday morning when the party was about to start, I got a call from my future employer to say, if you want a job in New York, come and get it. And I was just like, wow, so, and I took it. And I think, my life would have been, I think that's one of those defining moments because I probably would have been able to speak French fluently, probably speak Spanish because it was 9 months in Spanish. Yeah. And I'd probably be, I don't know, maybe still in finance versus, this was a private equity job. It was very entrepreneurial. This guy, he's my first boss, he's my mentor. He wrote he invested in one of our first companies, even when Ngozi and I started. He's actually an investor in Carbon to this day. So it's sort of like, if I didn't take that route, I don't know, maybe I'd still be in London or Paris, working for a financial institution. So I think that was a defining moment.
Thank you for sharing. So how did Carbon start and why?
So again, Carbon started in 2012 and, Ngozi and I still wanted to do this financial services business. We felt that access to credit was a huge concern in Nigeria. So this is in 2003 when I was in private equity, I had seen a similar company in South Africa, and we said, okay, let's do that in Nigeria because it's hard to imagine now because there's so many fintech players. But think about in 2012, yeah. Where would you get a loan from? Yeah. You'd have to go into your bank. And if take a 24-year-old now, if she wanted to get a loan in 2012, it's probably non-existent. And we actually did it ourselves. So at the time I was running Mr. Biggs, all the Mr. Biggs on mobile petrol stations.
Oh, okay.
And so we're bringing a lot of cash. So I called my bankers and said, can I get a loan? Can I get like a 300,000 naira loan? And he laughed. And he said, well, take it from your company. I said, well, that's not good governance. Give me a personal loan. Yeah. So he said, okay, I'll get back to you. And in 2 weeks' time, I called him again. I said, how far? Where's the loan? He said, okay, look, we'll give it to you, but you have to write a personal guarantee. And at the time, we were putting in about 7 million naira a day in cash. I just said, look, if it takes 4 weeks for someone like me to get a loan, imagine somebody who works in just any old firm. Would they have access? So we said, okay, let's do it. And that's how we started. It was called OneCredit at the time, and then from OneCredit, I think we changed our name quite a lot of time. Okay, OneCredit to OneFinance, and then to PayLater. Yeah.
So that's actually my next question. I was going to say that a lot of people think that Carbon started from PayLater, but it actually started with OneCredit. So from OneCredit to OneFi acquired Amplify, then PayLater, then Carbon. So I assume that from every point that the brand name changed, it was because there was going to be a pivot in the product. So can you tell us about the pivot from OneCredit to OneFi, OneFi to PayLater, PayLater to Carbon?
So OneCredit to OneFi is actually a boring story. It was the fact that we created OneCredit, but then we needed to get regulated. Right. And CBN rules is that they will not give a license to an existing company. So we had to get the license. We had to call ourselves OneFinance. It was the closest thing to OneCredit. And then so that was just an issue. So PayLater started it was supposed to be a product of OneFinance. So we were trying to do this. It's a product called Buy Now, Pay Later. So in Europe, you have a company called Klarna, where if you want to buy stuff on e-commerce sites, what they'll do is they would pay for you on your behalf and then collect the money from you. So
like Alipay?
Yes. So the whole idea is that it's a service to the e-commerce site. So we went to Conga and Jumia and said, look, why don't we pay on behalf of your customers? We'll pay you and we'll collect from them. So just give us a fee. But then they were like, no, there's not enough margin for us to share with you. So we shelved that. Then when we wanted to move to the digital platform, we resurrected the name PayLater because we already had the brand. So we said, let's just do PayLater. And it also, it made sense for what we wanted. Borrow, at the time was 30,000 naira and pay us later. So that was the reason. And then finally, when we started adding other products like savings, transactions, funds transfer, and we had our wallets, etc. PayLater didn't reflect all our services. It was still this kind of loan product, but we were doing so much more. So Carbon for us was a more encompassing name. Carbon is everywhere. We want to be everywhere for our clients, so that's why we chose that.
Do you think Carbon name is going to change again in another 2 years?
I hope not. No, it's not. No, it's not. It will not change.
Okay, we'll find out. So what has been the biggest challenge so far with the company?
I think the economy is
Nigeria will test you soon.
Is always challenging, but I think also people is a problem. I think that it's getting more competitive to source for talent. So when we started, it was something new, it was new, so we didn't have a lot of talent in country to do certain things we wanted to do, like data science. Fortunately now that's getting better. There are more people available. However, there's more global competition for Nigerian talent, which is a good thing for individuals. There's, the fact that, you can work in Nigeria and you can live in Nigeria, but you can work for a US company or a German company. So I'm happy for the professionals. Now, from a Nigerian company that earns in local currency, you know how difficult that is. We're competing with European companies for Nigerian talent. So that's probably been the biggest challenge we've had as a company, and I think that's similar to lots of companies in Nigeria.
But hasn't that been a recent development? Because software developers started getting remote jobs maybe like a year or 2 years ago, and it's still them. Right now, it's when digital marketers and product designers are realizing that so we can earn in dollars too, and are trying to do it. But before the last 2 years, say the first 3 years of the company, when you didn't have to compete with global pay, was people still the main challenge?
So when we decided to switch to PayLater so we raised money in 2015, and then we decided, and you have to remember that we weren't a digital business. We didn't start off thinking we're going to be digital. If we did, Ngozi and I have finance backgrounds. We probably would have got a technical co-founder. So we hired a local firm to help us develop PayLater. And that didn't go very well. In fact, we kicked them out. Then our team got poached. Our tech team just got literally poached by one of the most popular startups now in Nigeria. And we had to use Andela. So it was just, so even then in 2015, we started PayLater with nothing. It was a struggle. So even then it was very difficult, because if you were technical, there were very few people. There was Paystack had just started, was just about to start. Flutwave, or what was Pay with Capture, had started. So it still was very, very challenging getting talent as well, and also the banks would poach. So that was also very difficult for us. So I think talent has always been there.
Interesting. So when you Google Carbon, at least when I did, the first thing I saw is that Carbon hit $240 million in processing. How does that feel? And would you say that it's your biggest win yet? If no, what is?
So no, look, it feels great. I think the team have done amazingly well to actually generate all those transactions. I think our biggest win has probably been, getting our microfinance bank license. So we're now a digital bank. I think that is going to propel us into a different category going forward. So we want to be, again, it's sort of fulfilling the plan we had from the beginning, to be everywhere to our customers. So now, what we want is, I want your account piece, for instance. I want to make sure next time I see you, I'll be like, what, who are you banking with? It's got to be Carbon. So I think that's been very key for us.
Okay. So my next question is, a lot of startups have come and have gone. Some of the biggest startups we have now, the Paystack, Flutwave, like you mentioned, they're just reaching at like 4, 5 years, 6 years. But you've been there for 9 years. What's your secret? What do you think you guys have done so well that has been able to keep you for almost a decade in this ecosystem?
It was an interesting question, because people might see it differently, like, so you've been there for 10 years, you haven't blown. So, I mean, it really is how you see it. I think Ngozi and I have a very long-term view. And, so for instance, when we raised money in 2015, this was before like the tech points and tech cabals were now doing these massive, press releases or articles about people that raised, pre-seed, Series A. So we just tend to get forgotten. And that's fine, because, as I said, we're there for the long term. We want to be sustainable. So a lot of startups focus on just growth by all costs, because that's what investors think they want. We want to make sure that we can sustain our business. We will not be dependent on having to raise from investors all the time, because otherwise we can't employ people. But I think it's also because we want to stay close to our customers and give our customers what they want. That's why we've been able to, fortunately, be here for a long time.
For this long?
Yeah.
That's amazing. So there's Carbon Disrupt Fund, the $100,000 fund. And when I was reading an article about it, I think on TechCrunch, it said you guys are more focused on giving out funding to startups that are on fintech, because fintech is saturated and they're getting lots of funds. So can you tell us a bit about the startup Carbon Disrupt Fund?
So the idea was to, give almost like seed or angel money, about $10,000 to startups that could leverage on Carbon's, infrastructure or its customers. And so it was our ability to help startups accelerate their growth by just piggybacking off our infrastructure. The challenge we had, so that was the idea. The reality was, we had lots of companies come in, and we kept on telling them, there's no negotiation. It's $10,000 for certain, exactly. So, and they're like, yeah, we get it. So we'll go through the process, we'll go through the screening, and then when we finalized on a few people, then it was, can we discuss this? Can we look at this? I raised this. And then we said, look, we're we're not an equity fund, because we're running carbon. Now, there's so many angel and VC funds that their job is to screen and look at your company and give you a bespoke deal. This was, if you want $10,000, and you're ready to give up 5%, this is for you. So that was basically what happened. Was we kept on telling people, look, we're not changing the terms, and that's simply because we haven't got the time to. To be, I'll be running a fund instead of actually just running carbon. So that was the challenge.
But like, how many startups or businesses have you invested in?
So we've invested in about 4, but not through Carbon Disrupt, but just as Carbon.
Okay, so I know that before you and Ngozi started Carbon, you were doing venture capital. Kaizen, is that how it's pronounced?
Kaizen, yeah.
Kaizen Venture Fund. So I was wondering, is Carbon Disrupt Fund like another way to reenact what the venture capital firm is like?
No, but Carbon is actually from Kaizen. So the goal for Kaizen was to be a distressed fund, but also to set up new businesses. So Cafe Neo was one, it was a new business, and Carbon was a new business, or OneCredit was a new business. And what we realized was that, and we'd invested in fiber optic in Kenya, we invested in coffee washing stations in Rwanda, organic juice in Ghana. We realized that Carbon was the best bet, because we were literally, every time we'd invest in a company, by default it was probably distressed or doing badly, or it was a startup. So that's not an easy situation. So basically you're always struggling from the get-go. But we just said, I think Carbon is probably our best bet, so we decided to stick with Carbon and then just forget everything else. And
how's it like, being a co-founder with your brother? Because most of the co-founders that we know, they're friends, ex-colleagues, classmates, but this is your blood brother. So even if you guys fight in your office, you still have to go back home.
And we spent 20-30 years fighting, so we've all fought out. So that used to be the biggest question for investors. We'll go and pitch, and we're expecting the investors to give us some technical questions, and we're like, what's it like working with each other? And I think it's great. I think trust is such is so precious. So imagine working with somebody that you completely trust.
And you completely know.
And there were some funny times during the Kaizen days where, I was in Ghana or I was in Congo looking at deals. Ngozi's in Nigeria, and we'll get headhunting us, because our titles were directors, so people didn't think we were co-founders, it was just directors. So we would get headhunted by the same private equity fund saying, hey, I'm interested, I see you have the right profile, we would like to interview you for this job. And we'll both laugh because, they didn't know that, we were actually co-founders. But that's real, because there were times where things weren't great, and then you have your own personal challenges, you're married, you have family, etc., and the company's not doing well. What do you do? So at least with both of us, we could have honest conversations about the situation. Whereas sometimes, there were times where I was in another country and people will be like, why don't you come and work with us, and why don't you have start this opportunity? But I was like, no, I'm not going to do that, because my co-founder's my brother and I trust him, and these are the things. Yeah.
So you get your CEO, and Ngozi is MD, right? There are not a lot of startups also have CEO MDs, like CEO, COO, CFO, all of that stuff. And MD and CEO from the outside looks almost like very similar roles. So I'm wondering, like, how do you guys balance? Like, what's he responsible for in the company, and what are you responsible for?
We're co-founders. So I think as a regulated entity, CBN does not recognize, co-CEOs, etc. So we split up responsibilities. So in terms of in Carbon, Ngozi is in charge of finance, risk, data science, as in those verticals report to him. And with me, it's product, marketing, tech, legal.
Right, so you guys would have actually gone with co-CEOs
if
it was something.
Yeah.
Right. I thought as much also. Interesting. So I'm sure you've heard this question probably all your life, right? But what does it feel like being the son of Pascal Dozie, and just like, oh, so you're the baby of the house. Even though it sounds weird because, I wouldn't say you're really old, but it also sounded weirder. But how did it feel like, especially when you were starting and you're starting a finance business and he had founded Diamond Bank? You're obviously not competitors, but I'm sure there would have been a lot of pressure, right? It's not just like you are his son anymore, but you're starting your own company in the same country.
Yeah.
What was it like navigating that?
Look, I think first of all, it's a privilege to be, my dad's son. I think he's a phenomenal guy. And I think that, it was challenging in the sense that when we first started, we were still, I think every startup always has to chase so many things. So we were direct to consumer. So we would lend to you. But then, the banks would talk about, oh, you guys have this algorithm where you can help us, decide on who's a better borrower. So maybe you can lend to our own customers. Let's work together. So we would always spend time trying to work with banks. But then there was always that, why isn't Diamond Bank working with you guys? Is it because it's crap or you're a spy? And so you'd actually get through that. At one point, I think maybe we were naive. We just go in, very optimistic, and then there's always that no. But I think there was always that suspicion. It's either you're a spy, or maybe it's so bad that even Diamond wouldn't do it. And then of course, Diamond wouldn't do it either. So which is also very frustrating. It's almost damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Interesting. What 3 people have made the most impact in your life?
Actually, so I'd say 2 of my bosses. My first boss, Tom Barry. My second boss, Thierry Tano. He was the head of IFC Africa. In fact, we had an argument the first time I met him for an interview. He practically rescinded my offer. And made me do a test, but he's a great mentor because Thierry was, when we joined IFC, so this is around 2004, and IFC was setting up like a big South Africa office, and Thierry was like the deputy director at the time.
Right.
So he made sure, so they had made me an offer, for instance, but I hadn't gone through the same tests as the people in DC. So I literally walked into this meeting, and I had about 7 interviews already. So I walked in to see him thinking, I've got my offer. I said, no, I'm taken away from you. And if you don't pass the test, then the offer. And he was like, and I was so upset. But he was trying to tell me, well, look, if you get it, it'd be good for you. Maybe you'll get into a good MBA school, he mentioned one in South Africa, and I was just like, I don't want to go there. I said, where do you want to go? I said, I don't know, Harvard. So I went there. I'm like, okay, so I really did not like this guy. Passed the test, got in, and then we discovered that we were getting paid less than 2 of us. So 2 of us got hired at the same time, and we got paid less than our counterparts in DC, like significantly less. And I remember having dinner with Thierry, and he had a coach. And there was my colleague Linda and I, and Thierry and his coach Mel. And for 2 hours, we were bombarding him with, it's not fair. And he increased our salary. This amazing guy. So Thierry, and then of course, Ngozi. I think, Ngozi is my best friend, my partner. I trust him. And, a lot of people don't know this, but when I was unemployed for a year, literally, Ngozi was practically funding my lifestyle in the UK. He was working at the time. So no, it was those are the 3 people I think that are.
What's the age difference between you and Ngozi?
4.
Oh, so that's quite a bit. I thought maybe it was just 1 or 2 years.
No, 4.
Interesting.
Don't let the height fool you.
Right. So when I asked you the question about your biggest challenge at Carbon, you said it was people. And I assume that, just learning over time the kind of people to hire, learning that it's difficult to hire, keeping your people. Right now, after going through this experience and where you are right now, would you say you have a hiring philosophy? Or rather, what kind of people do you look to hire so that you can actually retain them and keep them instead of them just getting poached?
Yeah, so even through Kaizen, there's some people that were amazing in our team, and we boil it down to a few characteristics, and we call it primes. You know, they're passionate, they're resourceful, they're very intellectual, they're mavericks. You know, there's something about them where they find solutions where you just think, you know, wow, how did they find this? You know, they execute as well. They just get stuff done, and they're data driven. And so that's basically the ideal people that we look for. So and over the years, we've had people that have, you know, shown, if not all of those traits, but most of them. So one of the things we ask for in interviews, like, what are you bad at? And people always get stumped by that, like, what do you mean, what am I bad at? I'm like, no, what are you bad at? So most people will tell us, you know, I think we're all coached to think about, to turn our weaknesses to a strength. So it's like, oh, I'm really bad at delegating because I just want to get it done. I'm like, no. I want to know what you're really bad at. And the reason why we do that, because we believe in teamwork. So if you're really bad at something, there's somebody who's really good at it. So there are things you're really good at, and we're like, okay, Peace, that is what you're good at. So let's pair you up with somebody who is, you know, weak at what you're really good at, but strong at what you're bad at. And and that's how we like to work. We don't believe that, you know, just because you're weak in certain things, you're not
good in other areas.
Good enough. Exactly.
So what are you bad at?
I'm bad at, I'm getting better, but I'm bad at conflict. I'm bad at, I'm bad at being direct sometimes. Like when,
it's like, you know, sugarcoat things.
Yeah, well, no, not even that. I just shut down. You know, if I can't look at you in the eye, then it's over. So that's, conflict, but it's something I'm actually working on.
Yeah, and I assume that's also where Ngozi kind of also compliments you in these areas.
Yes. So it's interesting because people always think of me being the gruff one because I can be surly and I can be quiet, whereas Ngozi is very, very like bubbly and is extrovert.
So in all this, you did 4 years at Kaizen, 9 years now at Carbon. That's about 13 years of entrepreneurship experience. What has been the 3 biggest business lessons that you've learned so far?
You've got to be true to yourself in terms of when you're working with investors. Investors will tell you they'll tell you something and they will act in a different way. So we had investors who tell us, why are you trying to expand into other countries? Stick to Nigeria. Nigeria is big, it's massive, just focus. And then we'd get confused. But then you see what the investors are doing. They're investing in your competitors who are investing in other countries. And I'm like, so what happened there? Oh, well, they got this, they have their systems that, that's so well thought out and they can diversify. And I'm like, but we can do the same thing. So I think it's important that, you stick to what you think you're good at and just focus, go with it and trying to ignore investors. It's hard, but I think you have to ignore investors. They'll come round. And finally, I think you have to empower good people. I think that allows you to actually do more when you empower good people.
And so there's some people who are going to be watching and they're going to wonder, this Carbon, what exactly is Carbon? So in 1 minute, convince me and people here that don't have, or people that are watching that do not have a Carbon account yet, why they need to get on Carbon.
Yeah, so Carbon is a digital bank, and we're a bank that can actually do several things for you that I think a lot of digital banks and banks don't do for their customers. We can actually give you loans when you're in your time of needs. We give you an amazing savings rate. We don't charge for bill payments, and our transfers are free. So I think in terms of value for money, I think Carbon should be your best bet.
Amazing. Guess you guys will let us know if you actually create a Carbon account if you don't have one by the time you watch this particular video. Awesome. So last question before I do like a little lightning round. For first-time entrepreneurs, because tech is like the in thing right now. Everybody wants to go into tech. Everybody wants to raise money, right? So for first-time founders who are maybe still idioting and about to roll out the business, especially as a tech startup, what would be your one advice to them? first-time tech founders?
So I'm not tech, right? So I think the advice would be, even if you have a non-technical background, I think you can still be successful in a tech field. You just have to have the interest, and you have to know your limitations and find people that you can work with. So I think that's also something that people always figure out. Like, I'm not technical, therefore I can't do this. But I think that so people, I think, focus too much on the technology and not on solving the customer's problem. Customers don't really care about the technology; they just care about how did you solve my problem. And it's one of the things we always battle with internally, where we have a product and people are like, well, we need more engineering. I'm like, no, but the customer doesn't really care. If you're giving the customer a cheap loan, or if you're giving them a service where they didn't have to pay extra for it, they're really happy. They don't really care to some extent how it's delivered, as long as it gets to them. So I think that's really important, that entrepreneurs should not see any limitations about their background. If they're non-technical, find a technical partner. Explain the process, explain the product, and find somebody to work with in your team.
Amazing. What's your favorite city in the world?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Oh, yeah?
That's a very, 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 very tough one.
Okay, top 3.
Top 3. Wow, that's much better. That's much better. Singapore.
Okay.
Nairobi. And Lagos.
Nice one. Okay, best food, favorite food?
Fried plantain.
Favorite color?
Black.
If you're eating cereal, would you do milk before the cereal or cereal before the milk?
Milk after the cereal.
I know. That's wrong answer, guys. So we have to end this video now, because I don't get it. Like, typically you put the milk first, because the milk that would determine the amount of cereal that you actually put into plate, not the other way around.
Why would
it's
you
so
do that?
weird.
Why would you do that? It's so weird.
You know what? Let's end the video, because I don't want to get offended, because he might be my mentor in the PS. But thank you so much, Chijioke, for having this talk with me. I learned a lot, right? And I really appreciate it. And I'm sure that the people viewing also appreciate it. So guys, if you did learn something from this video, don't just comment on this video. Actually go on Twitter or Instagram. Use the hashtag FoundersConnect. Tag Chijioke on Twitter. Tag Itimi on Twitter. Let us actually know that you watched this video, and actually tell us what you think about the video. And if you have any questions, ask him. Who knows? He might actually answer you. But do you have any last words before I close?
Get a carbon account.
You must sell his market. Alright guys, I'm going to put the carbon link on the description. So if you don't have it, actually just click on the description below for you to get your carbon account. Peace out, guys.